checking yourself out, looking in the mirror, assessing the muscles, assessing the development. So this is something that I've never really seen to be that commonly promoted, but for myself, I've noticed it to be an extremely useful tool for gauging training strategies that are effective for me. So what I mean by this is that what I've found, once I kind of did the basic formula of how you're supposed to train, following progressive overload, the recommended amount of volume, sets, whatever, after many years of that, I was completely plateaued. And my next step was to go, okay, well, let me just say, fuck the rules. That stuff got me to here. Now I'm just going to start experimenting and throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. And to see what sticks, you need to look in the mirror and be assessing your body at all times to catch the little changes in your training that do lead to improvements in muscle gain and the ones that don't. And so over many years, self-experimentation and critical analysis of the way that your physique responds to the experimentation, I think, is the best tool to elevate your physique once you've already been in the gym for a year, a couple of years, up to 3-4 years. In the beginning, I don't think it's that important. I think consistency, intensity, and just dialing in the basics. But then to continue to see progress, experimentation and checking yourself out. So I'll give you an example. Recently, this has happened many times over the last several years, but recently I made a small adjustment to my training, and I'm always tweaking and moving things around. Every couple of weeks, I'll change something. Okay, let me try this. Let me try that. Okay, and this change was that at the end of my workout, I do a bunch of drop sets. So for overhead tricep extensions, I'll have the 90-pound dumbbell and then 4 other dumbbells. So it'll be the 90, the 75, the 60, the 50, and the 45, okay? As the weight goes down, those are the weights in pounds. And I'll do slow controlled reps with the 90, somewhere between 10 to 15. I chuck that down, push it all the way to failure, rest 10 seconds, and then pick up the next weight and do the same thing. And it becomes a game of pain tolerance. But I found there to be a lot of growth in that. If I can push that intensity and hang out in that pain, and especially as you get down to the lighter weights, where the set ends, that margin of where literal physical failure is, gets wider. And it's kind of I could probably got another one, but it's burning so much. That's the territory of improvement where the gains can happen, is how I'm thinking about it in my mind anyways. And an adjustment I made is I've been doing these drop sets for a couple months. I'll do that with triceps. I'll do the same thing with curls, and I'll do several rounds of it. I'll go back and forth. It's absolutely obliterates your arms. And I was seeing good progress. But then after a couple weeks, it kind of you plateau and you kind of settle off again. And initially, I was resting probably 20 seconds to 30 seconds in between each drop. So I'd do the first set of extensions, put the weight down, and I'd pick the other one up, and I'm catching my breath. I'm kind of dilly-dallying, and then I go into it, and I was thinking this was better. And then one day session, I was training with a friend, and he was pushing the pace, so I was going way faster. Boom, hit it, 10 seconds max, another one. And the next day, my triceps, my biceps were much more sore, and looking in the mirror, they were much more full. Even first thing in the morning, I was I always look and check my physique out quickly before I get in the shower, And then throughout the day, I'm always look when I'm brushing my teeth, or I take a piss and I'm washing my hands. I'm how am I looking? And eventually you can start to pick up on small, tiny changes that are happening. And when I made that change, there was a distinct, in the next day and the following days, improvement in the muscular tone. Very slight, but a definite noticeable difference. And now there could be many factors, right? I know that I changed the rest time, but what else did I do? Did I eat differently? Was my sleep different? Was there something else in my training? Was I just training harder because I had a training partner? You can't necessarily identify exactly what the factor was immediately. But then over the following weeks, I continued to have that reduced rest time in the drop sets and didn't change anything else in my training. And the improvement in the muscle tone and gain, as well as the soreness, maintained. So from there, after a few weeks, I would conclude, these specific drop sets with a shorter rest, if I push the pace, seems to lead to more muscle growth. And the only way that I would have picked up on that is from being super tuned in to how my body looks on a daily basis. And so the reason I'm giving you that specific example with a lot of details is so you can contextualize it with your own training. And then potentially, as you make small adjustments, always be assessing and reflecting. It takes a lot of effort. It takes more mental space. You have to really want it. But I've found it to be an extremely useful tool. And then as you adjust different things, like for example, maybe you add an extra set, maybe you start training more often, maybe you change the tempo. There's all these little variables that you can tweak. I change the rep range, and you're always assessing how your body changes. And over many years of doing this, you can slowly start to like zero in on this strategy works really well for me. This type of training is always garbage. An example of that for me is like supersets for your arms with like not much rest in between. And I know I just said the drop set. The drop set is a bit of a different thing, and that's like done at the end of the workout. In the beginning, I do a completely different style of training with long rests, trying to move heavy weight, and mashing the two together I found to be effective. That's kind of for another video. But a style of training that I found to be very ineffective consistently over many years, mixed in with all these different types of programs, consistently workouts where I'm like supersetting my bis and tris back and forth, and like you get a good pump and it feels intense, but just I never noticed that to lead to growth. And I feel very strongly that I can conclude after like several years that this is just not a good strategy for training, and I'm going to like leave that out. So the point being, take the time to assess your physique on a daily basis and start experimenting with your training and changing the variables and paying attention to how it responds. If you're really early on, you don't need to worry about this, all right? Just show up consistently, train hard. If you're in a plateau and you've been training hard for a long time, to me, this is your best tool and it's served me really well. So I encourage you to try it for yourself. I hope that helps you.